This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Mannarino. Welcome to Pop Daily on this Wednesday, July 9th, halfway to the weekend. So a new poll for the race for mayor of New York City came out today. This one was done by Slingshot Strategies. It was sent to me early this morning, and the results are pretty interesting because everybody's talking about right now whether or not Zohran Mamdani should face one challenger or, as it currently stands, Andrew Cuomo as an independent, Eric Adams as an independent, Jim Walden as an independent, and Curtis Sliwa as the Republican nominee, right? David Paterson, the former governor of New York, came out and said, hey, all of you need to kind of figure this out and pick one person to run against Zohran Mamdani. All of them currently saying they're looking at the plan but don't feel like they're going to be doing it, right? But a new poll came out today by Slingshot Strategies, and this could maybe urge some folks to go one way or another here. So the question was put out to a number of voters: if the general election for mayor of New York City were held today, how would you plan to vote? According to this new poll, Zohran Mamdani wins it with 35%. In second place was Andrew Cuomo with 25%. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, in third place with 14%. Eric Adams as an independent with 11%. Jim Walden with 1%. And that is how it would shape up if the election were held today, according to this. So that is a pretty interesting thing, right? Because Zohran Mamdani, obviously the winner, but if you do look at the numbers and you take 25% for Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams is 11%, if you only had one person running and that person coalesced and got 36%, they would beat Zohran Mamdani theoretically, according to this new poll. We'll see what happens. I did reach out to the Cuomo campaign, said, what's he doing? Is he staying in? Is he going to run a formidable campaign? No response. Eric Adams says, I'm not dropping out. Curtis Sliwa, I'm talking to on PIX on Politics this week to find out what he wants to do. He says, I'm not dropping out either. He's the Republican nominee. So that interview Friday night at 6:30 p.m. But that brings us to today. And we are talking one-on-one with Congresswoman Laura Gillen. She represents parts of Long Island. She was in the room where it happened for this big, beautiful bill that President Trump calls it, that passed with a very slim margin. If you talk to Republicans, it's a great bill. If you talk to Democrats, it's going to hurt so many people, including Medicare, Medicaid, so on and so forth with health care. So Laura Gillen, one-on-one. Here she is. And Congressman Laura Gillen is now joining me. So great to have you here back on PIX on Politics. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Glad to be back.
So let's begin with President Trump's big, beautiful bill, as he is calling it, right? And part of a statement that after the bill passed, you put this out saying the GOP tax bill passed along party lines without any bipartisan input and will devastate Long Island. So the bill was 900 pages. You were on Capitol Hill for the vote. You were in the back room talks, right, where we heard some Republicans were actually opposed to parts, but still voted yes. So what were the talks? What were the negotiations that played out?
So I put in an amendment with Congressman Garbarino to totally eliminate the SALT cap and bring us to where we were prior to the 2017 bill. This has a real impact on constituents in my district, all across Long Island, all across New York, and other states that pay a lot of property taxes. It really is important to get that back. Trump came to my district. He said he was going to get SALT back. We tried to hold his feet to the fire to honor his campaign promise. They should have stood strong, and they did not. They caved on this bill. It's a short-term fix for a long-term problem. It's going to have an impact on the wallets of people living here. So that was one of the many problems with this bill.
Yeah, I mean, and there were other Republicans like Mike Lawler who campaigned on saying bring back SALT fully, and it was a non-negotiable. So I guess the question is, for New York, when you're looking at this, what happened?
So, I can't say because, as I said, this was passed strictly on party lines. That unfortunately, the Congress is really not working for the American people right now. It's hyper partisan. Democrats can put forward amendments not just to the big ugly bill, but also to normal legislation, and it's not even considered because it's a Democrat putting it forward. I put forward an amendment to a police funding bill to earmark certain funds to study peer-to-peer counseling, to reduce stigma associated with getting mental health help. I had 2 officers commit suicide in my district in the short time that I've been in Congress. Our police commissioner in Nassau County said that is something that he thinks will really help reduce fatalities and suicides within the forces of law enforcement. Yeah. And All the Republicans were nodding their head. They thought it was a good idea. And then when it came time to vote on this simple amendment, didn't increase spending. The spending was already there. They all voted against it. And not one person could articulate a reason why they voted against it. It was just because it was put forward by a Democrat. This is not serving the American people. It's not serving our law enforcement officers with respect to that bill. And that's how this budget went down. We were not involved in the conversations.
Yeah.
At one point, all the Republicans were called to Mar-a-Lago to go talk about SALT. I said, I'll go to talk about SALT and how important it is to people that I serve who are not just Democrats, also Republicans. They want that deduction back, but I wasn't invited.
So that's on the SALT front. On the health care front, officials are saying 1.5 million New Yorkers could lose full or partial health care coverage. The number is astounding. So how quickly do you anticipate that actually happening? And is there anything you can do as a legislator as a backup plan for those who may lose coverage?
Well, the devastating cuts, a lot of them are timed to take effect after the midterms so that voters won't know the real pain that is going to be inflicted upon them and upon our healthcare system until after the midterm votes. What we need to do is we need to recapture the House, possibly the Senate in the midterm so we can undo some of the damage that's been done by this bill.
You bring up a very good point, right? And that is the midterm elections. And so you don't think that this bill, as it has been voted on, will affect midterm elections because a lot of these changes won't be felt until after. Is that what you're saying? I'm
saying that's what the GOP is hoping, but we are making sure that Americans know how bad this bill will be, and not in a partisan way. I hosted a number of budget sessions in my district, and along with Congressman Tom Suozzi in his district as well, because we share Nassau County, with CEOs of healthcare organizations, CEOs of special need nonprofits, CEOs of food pantries, talking about what the cuts will mean to each of their different organizations and how bad it is going to be for constituents. We are making sure that we are getting the word out there that special needs communities are going to be devastated by this kicked off Medicaid and the increase in insurance costs. Even if you have private insurance, your premiums are going to go up once the effects of this bill are starting to be absorbed by healthcare systems.
Okay. Let's talk about the local politics and the race for New York City mayor. Zohran Mamdani declared victory. He won by overwhelming numbers. You called him, quote, the wrong choice for New York and too extreme. But like I said, he garnered more votes in a primary, Congresswoman, than in history, surpassing some numbers for general elections. So why do you think he is the wrong choice?
Look, I think, first of all, he ran a great campaign, but only 1 in 3 Democratic voters actually showed up for the primary.
But it was the most, but it was more than ever before.
He did a great job of motivating his base, and I would not fault. He ran a very smart, robust campaign, whereas I did not see that from some of the other candidates in the race. I have to advocate for my constituents. I am very concerned about Mr. Mamdani's policies and the economic impact that they will have on New York City's economy. New York City is the economic engine that drives this state. Yeah. If we start saying we're going to raise taxes on people and raise taxes on businesses astronomically when we already pay some of the highest taxes, I think we're going to see flight from New York, which is going to impact my constituents. 306,000 Long Islanders commute to New York City every single day to work. They generate $38 billion of income from New York City. If businesses start to leave, that's going to ripple and have effects both on my constituents and on the entire state. If New York City's economy tanks, then we're going to be left picking up the bag for all those tax dollars that are leaving. We cannot afford to pay more taxes. So
this is where it gets interesting, right? Because you're a Democrat. So will you, while you may think he's the wrong choice, support the Democrat? And the reason I ask this is because what does it say about the Democratic Party if you don't?
I think that the field is emerging. We're going to see. Mr. Mamdani has also made statements that are very, very painful to members of my constituency. So I take great pause with that.
So you won't be supporting the Democratic nominee, right?
I'm not endorsing in the New York City race anyway, but I'm speaking out against his policies because they will harm my constituents.
I understood. I want to talk about the other big race that's playing out at the same time, which could also affect your constituents, and that is the race for governor. Do you think that Kathy Hochul deserves a second term?
Kathy Hochul is navigating her way. She's done some good things. She's really tried to fix some of the things that we've seen in New York by trying to make New York City safer. I think that the voters will decide. I'm supporting the governor.
You are supporting the governor, because it was very interesting, too, and this is where it gets into interesting talks about the Democratic Party again, when you have a lieutenant governor now running against the boss. Did you have any thoughts on the lieutenant governor running?
I mean, he made his own choice to run against the governor. He's concerned about some of his policies. You would have to ask him why he chose to do that.
Yeah. All right, Congressman Laura Gillen, keep me posted on a number of things when it comes down to the bill, because I know it's really important, especially the SALT and healthcare for so many. So keep us posted, okay?
Of course.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, you heard Laura Gillen's thoughts right there on not only the bill, but the race for mayor of New York City and why she doesn't believe Zohran Mamdani should win. And, of course, the race for governor as well. We're going to replay this on PIX on Politics tomorrow night after the Curtis Lewa interview on Friday night, at 6:30 p.m., which you can rewatch Sunday mornings at 7:30. But that'll do it for us today here on PIX and Politics Daily. I'll see you back here tomorrow.